Hi, welcome back to My Messy Fingers. We are working on our second signature for page 1. This is for the album Morning in Provence, which is featuring Ciao Bella's newest collection. I'm going to give you some measurements here. On this piece, your base piece, it's going to measure 9 1/4 across by 8 1/4 in height. So the height will be the main measurement throughout the entire build. I will only be providing the measurements for the width of your elements. Now I got ahead of myself when I made this pocket, so I'm going to explain to you what I did. This is a piece I had from my scrap, and it is actually from a cutting of a 12 by 12 sheet that had a house on it, and this was the leftover piece. Now I mounted it on my cardstock, and then I had to stop myself. So you can go ahead and stop the video and kind of catch up if you want. But I need to tell you that before you do that, that this is the 12 by 12 piece that I elected to use. Starting from your right side, because this is how I cut it, you want to cut this at approximately 5 1/2. Actually, it's just a hair over, but depending upon how you center on your cardstock, 4 1/2 would work, or 4 5/8. Now, again, working from the right to the left, the second panel measures in at the same. It's just a smidgen over 4 1/2 inches. And then what I had left over was this piece that I'm now using as a pocket, a big pocket inside. Now, we'll mount these later, so if you've pre-cut them, just set them aside. And I don't mean to confuse you, you could, cutting from the left to the right, you could cut a piece that is going to measure 2 7/8 across. And then this piece ended up being at 8 1/8. And then you can trim the other larger pieces when we get to that big panel. Now the pocket I made was to adapt to this piece. So the pocket itself measured in at, I'm going to measure it from the underside. No, let me do it up here. Measured in, excuse me, I apologize. It looks like it measured in at about 2 7/8 by the height, which I've already shown you is 8 1/4 inches. Now I am using a metal die that I have, and I ran it through my platinum cutting machine, and I cut the die out, and I've already mounted it on. Now you might have punches that you can use, or you might have your own set of dies, or you can choose not to use any at all. So now this piece is going to go in right here. In the fussy cut elements, there is this gold potted plant that I have fussy cut out to put down here. Now when I glue this, I'm only going to be gluing in here because I want the tufts of the flowers to be out and up so there's some texture. And then also in the fussy cut, there is this big butterfly, and I am going to just put him right there. So when you get caught up, I'll get this put together, and then you can go ahead and stop your video and get caught up with everything. And I'm just going to put this right here. Now, like I said, I only want to glue down the major parts because I want the floral to be somewhat interactive. I want it, I'm just going to stick it right there. So then these can just kind of stay curled up a little bit. So there's a little bit of texture going on there. And then we're going to glue down the butterfly. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the antennae because they are so fragile. And he's just going to lay there flat like he's flying off. All right, so now the next thing that we're going to work on is the inner pages. So I have to get that turned the right way. All right, so the first thing we're going to put in, you should have one of these cut aparts left over. So I am putting this in here, and then I'm going to back it with this piece of paper. Now this piece of cardstock, find my ruler here, this measures at, what would that be? 1, 2, 3/16, 6 3/16. So it's on the line in between an 1/8 and then a 1/4 inch. And then you're going to score it at a 1/2. Now, depending upon how you trim this, you could probably trim out that extra little measurement, and I probably could, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it just the way that I have because I've got it well balanced. So I'm going to glue this on, and then I'm going to glue on the element for the piece of paper for the back. So with me eyeballing it, I should be about equal parts on this all the way around. Now I have misplaced somewhere in here my bone folder, so I'm going to use this. Not sure what I did with it. Well, it's here somewhere. I'll find it. All right, so then I'm going to do my dry measurement to make sure that I've got this piece going the correct way. And it looks like it's got to go in this way. I don't like this edge. I'm going to trim that off just a hair. Not much, just a hair. Re-ink that edge. And I think this will fit better. Yeah, fits a lot better. So I'm just going to snug right up to that score line and lay this down. I really do need to find my bone folder, but I don't know. Oh, there it is. It's hiding under my ruler. it sort of blends in with my tabletop, not the one I'm working on, but the wood grain tabletop. So now, in your fussy cuts, there were the 2 jars. Now, there were some floral that came off the edge, too dainty for me to want to work with, so I did do a fussy cut around them, and I just came in and around the bottom of this flower, and I'm taping it here, and I'm going to use this as a tuck on this page. Now this piece is going to get centered on the right side as best as I can, looking from top to bottom. And I'm going to turn it over. Okay, so there's that piece. All right, now the next piece is going to measure 6 inches across. You're going to score it at a 1/2 inch, and then you're going to score at 5/8 of an inch. And then this is just going to sit right in here. I've got this build up right here, so I'm going to come in the middle of the score lines. I'm going to come right into that gusset so that this will fold over easy enough. And then I want to push back on that score line so that I can reinforce it so that it stands up straight. Now the panel that's going to go over here on the left side, it is measuring in at 6 inches. You're going to score it at a 1/2 inch, and you're going to score it at 5/8 of an inch. And this one you will lay the paper right up next to the 1/2 inch score mark. There is not anything that we've built up on this that you've got to make adjustments for. Push back. And then encourage that to do what it's supposed to do. Now, on the inside of each of these, the piece of paper that I elected to use was this green piece. What's on the reverse side? The reverse side had some additional cut-aparts, but I wanted the green so that we had some different color patterns working for us here on this fold-out, this layout. I'm going to quickly glue these down. There will not be any magnets on this section. We will have a magnet closure on the front. Now, on one of the pieces of paper that we cut across the top, it had a large element. In fact, I think we used that on, we're about to use it. On this piece here, across the bottom, sorry for the pause, across the bottom were 3 cards or cutouts that you could, and I'm using 2 of them. And we'll get to this cut in a minute. All you need to know right now is just cut it along the spacing in between this top part and those 3 cards. Just cut along there and then wait for further instructions. So that one's going to go there. I have to turn this over so I can stay in the right rhythm here for you. Okay, so back to these guys. I cut them out, I inked them, and I put a bit of tape across the bottom. I'm going to come up about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to try and measure evenly with my eyeball. Now we have a nice tuck, and you still have a nice spot for either hand journaling or for putting a photo. So I'm going to do the same over here. Now, this will sit right in here. I want to make sure I'm not on my gusset. No, I did not leave myself enough room here on the end. I'm going to do a quick trim. Got to perform a little bit of surgery here. I apologize. But I need to make sure I got a decent edge here. I just apologize. I generally catch that kind of stuff. I'm not sure why. I'm human. Just do some surgery and move on. Okay, so this should lie better. My problem was I'm trying to leave myself a little bit of a white edge here on my left side and just sneaking up to the gusset. And for some reason, I just did not account for that when I cut that particular piece. It could be that I just wasn't finished cutting it, but neither here nor there. It's fit. This is the other card that I cut out. And again, I'm going to kind of center it from left to right and come up about 1/4 of an inch off the bottom. And there's our tuck. And then you, again, some hand journaling or a nice photo there. So this is our layout that we have here. And then we're going to close these. So I'm going to start with this piece. Now, when I cut this, it was this element that I wanted to protect. So I came over and cut this. That's how we got the measurements here. I came over and I cut this so I was about 1/4 of an inch away from the handle of this little bucket here. And then I cut the tops and the bottom to fit. And I did not ink these, so if you will hang in there with me real quick, maybe you've got some catching up to do yourself. Now I don't have any magnets for mounting this, so I am just going to glue it down. And then this piece, I wanted this torn corner. So I had cut it from going right to left, and then I trimmed the height by trimming off a little bit off the height and a little bit off the bottom. And then this is such a beautiful image, but it's not the image I'm after. This collection has got a lot of really large images. It's really a challenge to figure out what to do constructively with them so that you don't lose a lot of the image when you go to trim. So I'm having kind of fun trying to figure that out. Now this is done. You can, if you want, you can put a tag or a cutout over here. You maybe fussy cut something and make a tuck. I'm leaving it open for now. I might come back later and do something with this, but I'll wait and see. Now, the left and right panels are going to measure at 5 3/8 across. Now this time you're going to score at a 1/2 inch and you're going to score at 3/4 of an inch. That's your right side panel. Your left side panel also measures 5 3/8, scoring it at a 1/2 and scoring it at 3/4. Now the reason we need a 3/4 gusset is because we've got some buildup here and we need this gusset to absorb and take in what we've built up. And I have tried to cut these down the center. And now this is learning curve, and I think I'll trim real fast. There's about 1/4 of an inch in here that was not there when I did my dry cuts. The reason I think that happened to me is because I'm losing 1/8 of an inch here with this buildup that I've put in, because they did match perfectly. So I am going to cut 2 pieces real fast, and I absolutely, sincerely apologize for this, but catching that, I just don't like big gaps. It doesn't work for what I'm trying to do. Now, these measured at 5 3/8, so that is what I'm going to do real quick here. I apologize for the paper trimmer coming into view, but this is the 5 3/8. No, that's wrong. I apologize. So if I'm off 1/4, I need to go, so these need to be cut at 5 1/2. Sorry, so sorry. You need to cut them at 5 1/2. And then you're going to score at a 1/2. I cheat sometimes. You're going to score at a 1/2, and then you're going to score at 3/4. And because I cut that too quickly, I've got to get another sheet of paper out here. I'm just double checking my cutting measurements here. I don't like making mistakes. It's embarrassing, to be honest. And then I need this at 5 1/2 because I've got to make up that gap. And then I'm going to score at a 1/2, And I'm going to score it 3/4. Oh, I need to score this piece. I've got myself just a tad bit rattled here, folks. I apologize. I don't like when this happens. So I'm going to kind of slow the pace down a tad bit. And both of these should be my doing here? That's a bad piece. Move it in 1/4. Now I've got several pieces I've cut here. I want a 5.5. And this should be my 5.5. Okay. Okay, so I hope I did this. Look at that. Much better fit. All right, so now I will commit to my tape. But this means my outside pieces are going to be cut incorrectly. As well as my inside pieces. So I will think fast as to what I can do to correct that. I hope you have not pre-cut yours. I apologize. Okay. Much better, much better. Get this down here. Much better. Okay, so now what happens is these are the pieces for the inside panel, and maybe they're off just enough that I can absorb it in the edges. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I'm going to have some edges that'll be just a little bit off here on these two sides, but negligible, that I'm not going to worry about it too much. But I am having to do some trim across the top. Okay, all right, let's get her on. So I'm going to center it so that hopefully I have equal parts on both my left and right side. That will be here. And then let's do kind of a dry fit here. I'm going to have to trim off a little bit. I'm not sure why, but each trim is different. Okay, that'll work. Okay, I'm going to glue this in. And again, I'm going to center this. All right, so these will be our inside panels. So I'm going to go ahead and get those committed. And where I'm placing this is right up next to the 3/4 inch score line, because this gusset's got to come up and over the build. And the same for this side. And come right up to that 1/4 inch score line, 3/4 inch score line, I mean. Those are in. That's your spread that way. Now this way, I'm going to be short. I'm going to put the short two more to the outer edge because I want the images here to be as close together as I can. And I can see for some reason I have to trim across the top of both of these. I must have been a fraction of an inch off when I recut these cardstock panels. That's the only reason I would have to retrim these. So these are going to fit in here like so. And I need to straighten this one out. You see how it's kind of coming this way? That's because I haven't done anything over here with this gusset for it to remain true to where it's supposed to be. And then the same with this one. A little bit better. When we get this all together, it'll stand up straight, so I'm not worried about that too much. All right, so I'm going to get these in here. Now, what I did was, there is in your smaller cutouts, this image of the swing. I wanted to put this right here. It's going to have a magnet closure on it. And the swing to me seems like it would be something out in the front porch, out in the front lawn. So I've got my magnet, I covered it with another element. So I have my magnet in place. I'm going to get this side down, and then I'm going to glue this to this, or tape this to this side, and then I will put the panel piece over here. So I'm going to go ahead and get As I don't have a magnet I'm dealing with on this side, I'm just going to glue it down. Okay, so I want my tape to come about here. Off. I'm going to roll the excess tape. Use my finger to kind of roll it back. Now that's where my tape ended. So that's where I want. Oops, I almost committed it to the wrong spot. I want it just below the gate. There we go. Now I'll take the back off my magnet. I'm going to pull these two in where I want them to be. Commit the magnet. Slide it off. And now I can tape this piece on. So, a teachable moment here for myself and for you when you're doing these big build-ups. What I did was I went to the center of my base page and calculated out, but what I did not calculate for was this build-up, because you're actually building up 1/8 of an inch out here. So keep that in mind, that you're going to need to add 1/8 to each side in order to get your center to come together as clean as possible. Now, you may already knew that, but as many albums as I've made, that's the first time I've ran into that. I don't know what I've done on the other ones. Can't answer that. Come on. Okay. Now the only other thing I'm going to add is one of the little brass. There's a potted flower here. I'm just going to add a little brass element to the front of this. I got this with the collection. Come on. Well, you know, I do store this glue upside down so this doesn't happen, so I'm not entirely sure why. Okay, I need the glue. Come on. There we go. I just want to stick it right here. Now I'm going to give it a second. Make sure we didn't miss anything here. And you've got your elements. So while that's doing its thing, I'm going to turn it over, and I am going to start on an edge and work around to that side where I hopefully take the clip off by the time I get there. Glossy accents is good for adhering metal to paper. And it does set up fairly quickly. I just like to make sure that it has set up before I go flopping my pages around. Now we'll get the book, and we'll get this mounted in here. And I'm going to turn it this way so I can see 3 sides. Make sure I'm going in the right direction. Lining this right up with the edge. Make sure it's going on straight. Just a second, my glue's bubbling up. All right, now we're gonna get in here and get I'm going to make sure that my gusset is laying down the way it's supposed to, that it didn't flop, it didn't cave in. And then I'll get in here and take the rest of this off. And then I'm going to make sure on this end that the gusset is staying up, committed the way it's supposed to. All right. A little bit of a mishap on my part. I apologize, but we got it done. And I'm going to have to do some more encouraging here. But anyway, there it is. It's finished. And thank you for hanging in there. I'll see you on the next video.